back to another Code Untapped Tech Talk. Jay, how you been? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been busy.
What have you been up to?
Well, as you know, I'm working on our startup actually, SumGroup, which is a CRM tool for small businesses and sole proprietors. Yeah.
Is it just CRM though? You're doing some other stuff with that though, aren't you? Not just,
yeah,
just
it's a bit of it's a bit of a mashup of what I would call a traditional banking app and a social messaging type app like WhatsApp. So imagine those two applications squashed together, and
right.
that's being provided to small businesses so that they can communicate with their customers and they can manage all aspects of the actual client relationship.
Nice one. And I think today, we talk a lot about tech and startup subjects, but today we're going to talk a bit about building startups, and that's kind of the focus we're going to have going forwards for a bit. Now, you're obviously in the middle of building your first startup. I built Neighbor before I joined ImpactX and launched Code Untapped. What are the biggest challenges you've been finding building SumGroup?
I would say the biggest challenge I've had is access to funds. Yeah, so it's interesting because it's something that you drilled into me at the very start of this. Yeah,
right.
And I'm going to be a bit blunt, yeah, because as a Black founder, it's really hard to get funding, especially from like angel investment or until you've got like a proven traction. It's very, very, very difficult. So you have to look at alternative funding routes. And so, I mean, that figure that you drummed into me of 0.2%, and that's that figure is the level of funding in Europe that went to Black founders for fintech. Yeah, so
not just fintech, for Black founders, period.
Wow.
Right. Over the last 10 years, 0.2% of funding went to Black founders. To put that into context, that's 38 startups.
Yeah, so that's a really bad, and I think most of the funding went to mature businesses as well. Yeah. So that's what I've had to do, actually look at alternative sources of funding just to get the first version of the app out. So to be honest, the initial pilot app I wrote myself entirely, to prove the concept. So that's one of the routes to I think that's one of the things that you can do, because there's a few things you have to do. I think when you're starting out, you have to prove that there's a marketplace for the service that you want to offer, and then you also have to demonstrate in a very quick way that you can actually provide that service. Yeah, it might not have all the bells and whistles, but if you can put out a prototype, something that people can play around with and try it and get a feel for it, and the most important thing is that they can provide you with feedback so that you can iterate and build on top of that. That's the first thing you need to do.
That's like some of the design thinking we did with what was it, the Kin and Carter team, with some of the workshops that we did, right? But I just want to touch on that 0.2 because I don't think people really contextualize it. I was speaking to Andy Davis just this morning, and we're going to get him on this at some point, right? Absolutely. And we put it into context. When you think about it, 0.2% of investment has gone to Black founders. So it's not even 1 in 10. That's 2 out of 1,000, right? You've got 1,000 people in a room getting funding, only 2 of them will be Black.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's interesting. I mean,
that's the reality.
And from a percentage, it sounds bad, but if you look at the actual hard numbers, I think, what was it? The amount of funding that went to fintechs in Europe in 2020 was something like, what was it, Ed? 40 billion?
So 40 billion was invested by VC into Europe.
Yeah.
And if you look at that 40 billion, if you look at 0.24%, which is the actual number, it equates to 80 million. So if you look at that 40 billion that went into Europe and balance that for the 0.2%, it's gone to Black founders. 80 million out of that 40 billion went to Black founders last year.
And it sounds a lot, but actually we just had, there was a very, very successful fintech founded by two black guys actually, Marshmallow, yeah.
Which ImpactX invested in. They are part of the ImpactX portfolio.
Well done, guys. Well done. Well done. Well done. And they recently raised 83 million, didn't they?
Right,
so,
absolutely.
So that is equivalent to all of the funding that went to black founders last year.
Yeah. Into one company.
Into one company. And
now, you know, it does show that there might be some changes happening, because they were the second black unicorn in 2 months. The other was World Remit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact amount they raised. So, but it comes back to your point around maturity of startups. So the more mature startups, sure, they get some funding, but at that early stage, that first 200K is almost impossible for most black founders. It just is. Yeah. So, you know, obviously runway is a tough thing to get going, and you took a pretty big step, right, to launch yours. You were a successful IT contractor. You were at Goldman Sachs, and you were at Credit Suisse with me, and then you were at HSBC, and you decided, no, I'm going to put all of that aside. I'm going to launch my startup. How's that been for you?
It's been interesting. I mean, there's nothing like the buzz of working for yourself. Yeah, so that's really, really good. And it's not just about being your own boss. It's actually being in charge of your own destiny. Yeah, but what comes with that is the responsibility to know that, right, you've got to really plan this. So it's not something that you can do on a whim. So I did actually, prior to saying, right, I'm gonna stop my consulting and I'm gonna focus on the startup, I did build up a war chest. So I was very aware of this 0.2%. I was very aware that I needed to
Comes up in every conversation.
Yeah. So
how much runway you got? You planning on raising 0.2%?
Exactly.
Right.
I had, because of my IT experience, I've got 20 years worth of financial technology experience. So I used that to build the initial prototype. I actually built all of the back-end infrastructure. So everything that I could do, I did. Yeah, prior to leaving a regular gig. Yeah, so I did all of that, all the stuff that I could do, I did up front. Now, this period is all about turning that prototype into a real product. Yeah, so a consumer-ready product, something that is not just functionally complete, but actually has the usability that you expect from a customer-facing product. Yeah, right. And that's very, very different from what we would call like an in-house product, or even a B2B product. If it's a B2C product, it's almost like apps are almost like dating. When somebody looks at an app, they decide whether they want to use it or play with it or delete it from their phone within seconds. Yeah, so you've got to focus on, you know, making a big impact and making that journey through the app and the journey through the services that you're offering through the app. It's got to be very, very, very smooth and very intuitive as well.
You've done a lot of work on the design, right? Because we've showcased your app to a few people, a few investors and the rest. And the one piece of feedback that keeps coming back is this thing looks amazing, right? So why that strong focus, and how do you feel that's been?
Well, the strong focus is that we really want to touch people. I mean, for me, it's more, and the startup world is hard. I'm not going to deny it. Yeah, and you're going to face some challenges. So one of the things that you need to have a passion you need to have a passion and a drive.
We were talking about this just the other day, right? That deep love, that deep desire to solve a problem in a space that you're deeply knowledgeable about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another thing as well. You want to have, I mean, you should have, or in your founding team, a real appreciation and a deep understanding of the space that the service that you're providing. You have to, you have to, and you have to have commitment to deliver on that, to deliver quality in that space as well. Because really, you live and die, and your product will live and die by the quality of the service that it provides. So for me, design is fundamental, as it almost goes hand in hand with the functionality that you're providing. Yeah, it has to be intuitive, it has to look good, people have to want to have it on their phone. Yeah, and you know, so this is really what I focused on. Because there's a lot of apps out there that functionally are fantastic and people don't use them. Yeah, and people don't use them. Yeah, and I don't want to be one of those apps. I haven't got the time to waste, so I've really focused on design. Yeah, and it actually means that I've had to, in order to get the design feel that I wanted, I've actually sacrificed certain features in the V1. So in the initial launch, features that I had in the prototype, quite a few features I had in the prototype will not be in this new version.
In fact, the back end supports a lot more.
So the back end supports much more than what's going to be delivered in the first version, and that's a compromise that I've made, and I've decided to make that because I couldn't give it the design focus that it needed. Those features required a particular design focus that I didn't have the capacity to give before I got to V1. So I've made the conscious decision to remove those features and only focus on the features that I believe will add immediate value to users. And then effectively our technology roadmap or delivery roadmap will be purely focused on the feedback that we get from our users. So we won't build anything without demand for that particular feedback. Yeah.
So you touched on quite a lot around planning, from the sense of, you know, you talked about roadmaps, we talked about runway, we've talked about user feedback. One of the questions, we did a poll on our LinkedIn page, and you can go and see our polls if you want to join in and contribute to our next conversation. But it was very much around, do you know how to write up a business plan for your startup? And 89% said no. And that doesn't surprise me, actually. But given the work you've done so far and where you are, and you're still very early stage in your startup, do you think it's necessary? And obviously I've got a slightly different hat on because I've been a founder and I'm an investor, right? But what do you think, Jay?
And you're my co-founder.
And I'm your co-founder on something.
And you wrote my business plan on my phone.
Yeah. So what do you think about? What do you think about?
So listen, business plan, financial model is fundamental. You cannot talk to an investor without that. They will literally laugh at you, yeah, because it doesn't matter how. So that's another. It's interesting because we just spent 5 minutes talking about design and good design and product and marrying good design with functionality. But actually, what investors want to hear is that you've got a business, yeah? Right. And that business is going to actually make a profit, enough profit so that they can actually get a decent return on the investment that they're going to put into your business. And they
maybe in one of our future talks, we'll do a whole piece.
And they need to see
dynamics.
Exactly. So you cannot talk to investors without having a financial model or business plan, which makes sense. Yeah, and it can't be from the fairies. It's got to be based on reality as well. Yeah, so you need to be looking at comparatibles. So you need to be looking at other offerings in your space and what they're doing to add value and monetize their service, and how what you're offering compares to that, and what extra additional value can you provide over and above what they provide? What's the USP? Why would their customers switch to you? And all of those sort of questions. And actually understanding the business plan teases out the answers to those questions as well.
Yeah, because we did an application for UKRI funding, didn't we? We didn't really have a business plan or pitch deck before then for SumGroup. I think that activity drove a lot of understanding around the product. Whereas before it may have been a little bit field of dreams, build it and they will come. That activity actually drove a lot of in-depth understanding, as did building out the financial model and building out the pitch deck.
Yeah, definitely, because it's got to be what you're looking at, not just about product, good design, not just the business that it's a business that you're doing. Yeah, the product is there really as a vehicle for a business idea, and that business idea needs to be sustainable. Yeah, so it needs to be sustainable in the long term. So, it can grow. Yeah, there is a model for growth going forward, and what is particularly attractive to investors is where something can scale and there's opportunities to create additional revenue streams, yeah, as well. So they love that, yeah. So not just the scalability, but the fact that it can scale in multiple dimensions, yeah. So it can scale because you can go into different markets and more people can use the product. That's one dimension of scale. But another dimension of scale is that you have other ways of generating income from that particular product or service as well. So that's
we've looked at that a lot with SumGroup, haven't we? You know, it started off as a pretty linear product and it's grown into marketplace concept. There are other avenues you're looking to explore. There's integrations with third parties that we're looking at as well. There's quite a lot that we've done around how does the platform evolve and scale out.
And it's interesting that is the key word, actually. I think what's really attractive, especially in the fintech space, is that the product is not just an app, yeah, it's a platform. And when we talk about platform, we talk about integration. How can what you built interface and integrate with other services that are out there? Yeah, because it's those synergies that will create opportunities for further revenue streams. So it's very important to make your architecture, if it's a technology-based architecture, to make that architecture as open as possible. So you'll be looking at, you know, cloud-based services, you'll be looking at REST API, that sort of stuff, so that that your system can interface and you can offer your services to other systems as well. Yeah. So this really impacts from a sort of technological roadmap, CTO perspective, how you architect the actual system itself. This is fundamental. Yeah.
All right. But talk to me, there's so many areas we can focus, and we will do over the next series of talks that we do. I mean, we can talk about funding, talk about team building, talk about traction and all sorts of things. I would like to touch on the traction piece, because this has been a question that we've had quite a lot, right? And I know a lot of founders ask about when's the right time to approach getting investment, and you talked about 0.2% and the challenges that come with that. What are the direct challenges you feel you've had so far? I mean, it's early days yet, right? But I think traction has been a key one in that space, hasn't it?
It's early because I was under the impression that you build a beautiful product and people come running, and that's just
tell you that.
Yeah, that's just not true. That's just not true. Yeah, you know, they want to see the hard facts. Yeah, and then they want the hard facts validated. Yeah, so this is what traction really means. So traction really means validation of your financial model. Yeah, because your financial model is a prediction on where your company could go. Yeah, and traction validates and verifies that. Yeah, because as you say, like, right, I've got a month-on-month growth of 10%. Yeah, starting with a particular, you know, starting with a particular level of onboarding onto your platform. Yeah, but actually, what traction does, when you actually get those numbers, you can validate them against your financial model. So you can say, right, on month one, we expected to get X, and we've got X plus Y. So that means we're up. Yeah, so actually, that means that our financial model is actually very, very conservative. So this is good. We can go to our investors and say, look, our financial model was saying X and you were happy. And actually now, based on the early traction that we've seen, it's really going to be X plus Y. Yeah, so that's even further reasons for those guys to want to invest in your into your service or into your offering. So that's what traction really means. It means validation of a financial model, but you have to have a financial model in the first place to start with. Without the financial model, you won't understand where to put your investment, where to put your capacity, where to put the capital that you do have to work, because that's what startup is all about, placing your capital to get the outcome that you want, in the short term.
It's efficient use of capital, right?
It's efficient use. It's exactly what it is, efficient use of capital. Yeah.
All right. Now, I think we currently have an interesting poll that's on our LinkedIn page today, which is about, do you know how to find a tech co-founder? Just touch on the importance of team to you right now, because obviously, again, super early, but you're establishing that team right now.
Yeah.
How have you gone about thinking about that? And we'll go into it in more detail on our next podcast. But I'd love to hear a little bit about how you think about a team.
Yeah, so because I haven't got much cash, I am completely
Yeah, exactly.
I am completely ruthless um, when it comes to sourcing individuals for my team. I look at what skill sets I have, what I need to build, yeah, and that's effectively my matrix. Yeah, so I can do X, Y, Z, yeah, but I need A, B, C. So that's what I go for. Yeah, so that's what I go. So I look for complementary skills, yeah, with mine, because actually our development team, as you know, is free. Yeah, you know, I'm the back end developer, I'm the CTO, and I write all the specifications. I have and CEO. I have a front end developer who's actually our VP engineering. That's the entire tech team in terms of the development team. And then we have our creative director or sort of product owner, who designs all the screens, who with me designs all the flows and stuff like that, and actually designs the website as well. Yeah, and so everybody, because we're such a lean team, yeah, we can't afford any slippage. So we all have complementary overlapping skills, yeah, and any new people that we bring to the team have to bring something that we don't already have in this space, yeah. And that's my motto. And obviously as you scale, that changes, yeah, because as you scale you need to have as you scale you need to have you need to have cover, so you can't have single man dependencies, all of those things. So you need to, so that's what you're looking at, yeah. You're looking at economies of scale when you instead of having one developer in this space, you have two, so you can try and get double the work done. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So look, this has been a bit of a dip of a toe in the water in the world of building a startup, and something that Jason is very much focused on right now. Next podcast, we're going to talk a lot more around building teams and finding co-founders and the rest of it. We might touch on remuneration as well, right? You know, equity versus cash and all this, that, and the other. So for now, just want to say, our next event is going to be with Vanquish Bank on the 29th of September. We'll be looking at how open banking can be used to help young customers, students, and new to UK customers. All right. So if you're interested, you want to come along, it's completely free, it's virtual. Come to our website, book a space for the event. You can click a link in the notes below this episode here. So with that, again, it's been amazing. Jay, my co-founder, Code Untapped. Anything else you want to say?
Guys, just keep your head down, carry on coding, and you'll get there.
Awesome. We'll be speaking to you next time. All right. Take it easy, everybody.
Cheers. Bye-bye.